Well, we're a minute in. There's a #1 viewer coming in. Good morning, and more showing up. Welcome to the Art of Fire glassblowing studio outside of Damascus, Maryland. Good morning, Joanna. Patrick, welcome aboard. Who else we got out there? Lynn Bear. Okay, good, great. And we got a couple more out there. Don't be shy. Get your names in here. All right, good morning. I'm Bruce Ferguson. I'll be doing your camera work and narration today. If you were with us last week, good morning, Bridget. We did a show based on vases, and we'll show you those again. And we found out that they really look even more beautiful with flowers displayed, okay? Well, good morning, Antoinette. Glad to have you with us. So what we're going to continue with today is a couple more vases, because we had some special orders, and they're really interesting pieces. We thought you'd like to see them. Wayne Hillman, welcome aboard. Ann Hope, hello. Okay, so I've titled today's episode All About the Vase. So do with that what you will. Okay, so Todd has a couple of pieces in mind today to make. They're award pieces for a corporate group, and they've ordered some vases, some cylindrical pieces. One will be in a fishnet pattern, and the other will be feathered. And you've seen us do those patterns before, but we'll describe them and show them to you once more. Hey, who knows, we might have some new viewers come around, okay? The winner of last week's giveaway, David Hogan, won this beautiful pink Jack in the Pulpit. And the giveaway piece for this next week, good morning, Tracy, good morning, Ann, is going to be this triangular shaped small vase. Really beautiful and a little bit unusual to get pieces that aren't squared or round. So there's one that's triangular. Okay. Now Barbara Gould Belzer has a earworm. You're welcome, Barbara. Glad to do that. I'm known for doing that sort of thing. Namely with stupid sayings about glass, though. Some of you might not have seen the pictures online. This is the hyacinth vase that Josh did last week. Absolutely beautiful. And so anyway, we got lots of vases here. And David Hogan, if you're just joined us, congratulations, this baby is yours, okay? All right, so there we have it. Remember, we also have gift certificates. If you don't want to pick out a piece of glass for someone, give them a gift certificate. Then they can do it. They can pick out what they want. Also, we got t-shirts. We still got t-shirts if you're interested. Our website is artoffire.com. Our phone number is 301-253-6642. So let's get on with it. There's the guy that made us a little bit late today. I'm teasing.
I made a really nice vase.
He did.
Check it
In
out.
fact, I'm gonna ask Josh to come on over and open the annealer very briefly. You know, we do a half-hour video on YouTube, so we're on the left side, I think, with it, and so I can shoot from here.
Yeah, I think so. I'll give you the look.
Okay. Ready? Go. There it is. Okie doke. So we can't let much of the heat escape, but if you really want to see the process, go over to our YouTube channel, check that out. It's a really interesting chemical reaction that takes place within that glass. But let's get away from the chemistry and all that other nonsense and get over here to Todd Hansen. What do you got? Yeah, okay. So what's on the agenda today?
Hi everybody, we're going to make 2 cylinders today. These are custom orders for a long-time customer of mine, a long-time client. I do corporate work. These are actually personal gifts for being persistent. We've got 2. We're going to do a fishnet cylinder, and we're going to do a pulled feathered piece, as Bruce had mentioned earlier. These are going to be different texturally. We're going to do the fishnet on the outer surface, and you're going to see a lot of that work and faceting where the colors go. The pulled piece, which we're going to do first, is going to have color, and we're going to thread it and hook it, but then we're going to put a layer of clear over that. And that's going to soften some of those tones. So where the cylinder is going to look like little finer marking, the the pulled feather is going to look a little softer, a little more watercolor-ish.
All
If that
right.
makes sense.
Wonderful.
Let's get on with it.
What
Then
color?
down here
What
we
colors
walk-
are you using
What's
today,
that?
Todd?
What colors? For the feathered piece, which we'll do first, it's going to be a couple of shades of teal and a Kelly green with a white background. The fishnet is going to be we call it gunmetal blue, steel blue, over a gray background, a light gray background. It's really
Okay.
It's a
Sounds great.
really nice combination.
So Todd has the iron pre-warmed in our pipe warmer over here. We use the term iron and pipe, or blowing iron or blowpipe, interchangeably. Foster, owner of the studio, was trained in the UK, and he learned a lot of their terminology and uses it, and it continues on over here. So now Todd's got his first gather of clear glass from our furnace. It holds about 400 pounds of molten glass. He's using the metal table or the marver to shape the glass. You notice that it's already achieved a cylindrical shape now from the rolling. By changing the angle of the iron, he lets the end or the tip of the glass there touch the marver and get a little bit of a conical shape. By trapping a little bit of air in the pipe, it expands out into there, and he's got a really nice bubble formed in it. Now you notice he took a lot of time. He didn't rush the process. That's because if you come straight out of the furnace and try blowing immediately, the bubble will probably go out of control, and the shape will be really pretty uncontrollable. It'll be wonky as all get out. I'm trying to find words that don't sound like bad words to describe what. That's all right. We'll just go ahead with this. I'm trying to watch my language as we do these. Okay, so now he's rolling it on the marver.
Why start now?
Why start now? All right, now another gather of clear glass over that. Jen, welcome aboard, and Michelle. Okay, so Todd's going to gather up the glass now. When he holds the pipe at an iron the iron at an angle like that, he's letting it drizzle off back into the furnace. So we keep the glass instead of put it in a water bucket and not having access to it. Right now, he's going to place the glass into a bowl that has white frit in it. Frit is just granular glass. It's been already ground up by the manufacturer for us. We purchase our color, whether it's frit or solid bar stock, from any of several manufacturers. And this white is going to form a background, for a backdrop, if you will, for the transparent colors that follow. Transparent vessels are beautiful in their own right, but if you really want the color in them to pop and show up, you put a background in it, typically white or any other light opaque color, and that allows the light to pass through the transparent surface, then bounce back at your eye off of the opaque white. And that's why the transparent colors show up with so much more vivid when we do that. Bridget Blakemore says her dad is joined today. Well, welcome, Dad. Maybe we can come up with some really good dad jokes. I do that all the time anyway. Okay, so another coating of white, Todd? Yeah, okay. So he wants the density. 3 coats of white will give him just the right density to reflect light back to your eye on the finished vessel. So by turning the iron and tapping the glass into that bowl with the white frit, he gets full coverage, and now you can't even see what's going on inside. Yes, David Hogan, there are good dad jokes, I've been told.
Just none of mine.
Although when the will is read, those that have told me my dad jokes are all right may have something else to say. Is that a 00, Todd, or is that the 61-0 or Gaffer 100?
The Gaffer 100.
0, yeah. That's and but Antoinette's asking, That's a 0 in the Gaffer 100, which comes out to even probably a little finer than a 6100. So we like that. It's a step up from powder. So you can see now that Todd is using the marver to shape the glass by angling the handle end of the iron downward and then bringing it up toward level. He's pushed glass off of the pipe, and now with a downward angle of the iron, he cools the end of it, and he's got kind of a diamond shape right there. And this is going to allow the bubble to expand mostly in the middle. You can see that happening right now. We'll do a little more marvering to get the shape just like he wants. And it's entirely possible using a stationary metal table like that to get a shape that actually approximates what you would have gotten by using a block. And it takes a lot of skill to do that, just to get that shape exactly where you want it. Todd right now is searching out for our library of molds, optic molds, to find the one that he's going to want to use for twisting the glass up. Want another?
I thought we had one. I thought we had one more wider, but I can't find it.
Notice he's walking around like he's lost in the desert, and Josh is just standing back here laughing about it. Okay, now he's found the one he wants. Okay.
I do walk around like I'm lost in the desert every day.
Well, actually, Ted, Olympic doesn't make the glass. They don't sell Gaffer. Olympic typically sells Reichenbach to us. They do have, I don't know if they still have any Kugler or not. And for those that don't know what the heck I'm talking about, those are manufacturers' names of glass. But somebody asked a question about the equivalents. Okay, so he's getting the glass on there now. You can see that this is the point where he's letting some drizzle off back in the furnace so he can use some later. And if he wants any more taken off, he'll let that drizzle off. But the answer to that is no. So now it's into the color mix. And again, it's taking the hot glass, going directly into the bowl of frit, which for those of you that are glass blowers, that's a number 2 frit. And when we talk about a number 2 or a 0 or a 00 or whatever, it's the size of it.
Number 2 for the non-glass blowers too.
Ah, okay.
Sorry,
You had to.
You said dad jokes. And I
Yep,
got
it's time for that. Good morning, Joy. Okay, so he's got that frit on there. More frit or the beginning of the twist? 3 frit gathers, okay. Yes, David, and if you want to continue on to a good dad joke, not only can he twist again, yep, Barbara Gould got it. Did he twist last summer? Yes, indeed. Oh, I love it. You guys are into it today. Does the glass from different manufacturers you mentioned act differently? Sometimes, okay? We've had some glass from one of the manufacturers that was just a little bit different in what we call the coefficient of linear expansion, which is a really fancy term for the way the glass shrinks as it cools, okay, or elongates if you want to work the other way. All the glasses are supposed to have the same coefficient of expansion, which means they're compatible. You can use one with the other. If any of you have observed or done any flame working, you've probably watched someone use glass that yes, David, he can twist and shout, and he's going to show us in a minute. If you've done any flame working or seen it, they typically use glass that's a coefficient of about 104. And the spruce pine is what, Josh, 96? Yeah. So we use 96 coefficient. Actually, it's like a 10 to the negative, or it's 96 to the negative 10 or something like that, if you're really interested, which you probably aren't. But back to the business of being incompatible. If we get a glass that has a different coefficient of expansion, it will cool and shrink a different amount than what we normally would. And Barbara Gould-Belzer tells us that pink and white would be the peppermint twist. All right. So you saw Todd twist the glass on the marver. He simply put it down in one spot, turned in a single direction, and those little dots of frit that he had became lines. Now he'll drop this into the optic mold, not for the purpose of blowing and making ridges in it, but to twist it against those blades that you see. And as he turns the iron, it takes all of that frit glass and we'll twist it out further into lines. We'll take a look. And there they are.
Hey!
So there's your twist and shout, David. Okay. It's not really the confetti mix, Ted, but it is a mix of similar colors. And by now, since we've told you 3 times, you recognize that marvering the end of the glass like that cools it, gives it kind of a diamond shape, and we'll watch the expansion take place toward the middle of the piece. No, Antoinette, he was not blowing at the same time he twisted the glass.
I have done that.
And Wayne Hillman asked, where's Chubby Checker? He's holding the camera. Okay. Bada bing, bada boom. We need a hi-hat snare drum for a rim shot.
Rim what? Oh, wrong one.
Wrong one. Okay.
We'll leave that alone.
Okie doke. All right. So now Todd's got the decorative element of this piece working. And while he's letting that cool before the gather, let's go over and take a look. It's really hard to see anything because of the density. Okay?
You are my density.
So, could we turn that into somehow into density's child?
No.
Oh!
If someone can
Oh!
stop the movie,
That's bad. Oh.
That's a movie line.
Okay.
Lorraine.
So now he's going to put the feathering design into this, which consists of using this tool for grabbing the glass on the end and then bringing it back in a line. You'll notice he drops the hook in, and this is the feathering effect we've talked about before. He'll bring that line down, and now he'll quickly reheat. So when he cooled it a little while ago, as we were sitting at the bench and making bad jokes, that was to let it all cool, and now he heats the surface. He wants that line to be just in the surface of the glass. He doesn't want it to penetrate deeply. He'll go for another 2 lines, so he's got 4 of them. So now it's a matter of reorienting the glass. When he comes out, you'll see it falls a little, then he turns it over so that he's actually dragging while it continues to fall. All the way back, that area of the glass back there is called the moil. That's the glass that remains on the pipe after the break off. It's what's not used in making the piece. And now his 4th line, coming back in this feathering process, grabs the tip, but notice he doesn't dig in really deep. He pulls back all the way, and now he's got all 4 of those lines in there. Now, will you be going the opposite direction also? Okay. You saw Josh make an egg probably 2 weeks ago, and he only pulled in one direction toward the pipe, which is what Todd just completed. Now what Todd will work on is pulling away from the pipe, which is a good bit more complex. He still lets it fall, but now he drags it upward between 2 previous lines. And notice that he doesn't pull all the way to the end of the glass. It goes part way because the glass is not only falling, the pull of the hooking tool is elongating it. So if he were to just grab one side and pull it continuously to the end, he would pull the piece off center and have a lot more work to do later. So by taking a little bit from each side until he gets it down to the end, and he will eventually bring those two lines to meet. Then once he's satisfied with those two, or nearly so, he'll change the orientation of the piece 90 degrees so he can pull or feather through the remaining empty spots. So he'll bring it back, it falls, he flips it and begins the upward pull. Notice how the pipe is angled. This is what keeps it from falling too much toward the floor. If he held that pipe horizontal, the piece would be constantly falling away from him, and this task would be a lot more difficult. Can he clearly see the other pulls so he knows where to pull? Yes. Yes, he can. And not only that, he's got a little bit of a guide on the back end toward the moil. Now he's going to come to the bench to finish those two off. Notice he angles the pipe upward again. The back end is facing down. This allows him to pull up and out without severely elongating the piece. And if we look at this back end over here, where he did the original 4 pulls, you can see there's a little bit that's back there. And that helps him with the alignment of the ones that pull away. Now he's working on the point where the 4 pulls toward the tip of the piece join. He's got those little bits knocked off. And now, after all this time, he's completed the decorative element. Ta-da! And now comes the part of actually blowing and making something. Now, the gather of glass, or the parazon as we call it, is still possibly a little misshapen or not exactly where he wants. And when you pull and push on the glass a lot, quite often you affect the bubble inside. So I'm not sure exactly what Todd's going to do right now, but I rather suspect he's getting some heat on it, he's going to shape it a little bit, and he's going to make sure that his bubble is distributed just as he wants inside the piece. He's nodding his head yes. I have guessed correctly once again. And he's wondering why after 21 years I still have to guess what he's doing. Folks, if you worked with him, you'd know why. I'm kidding.
I don't know what I'm doing either.
So now, you can see, as he points it down, that's not just for the heck of it. That was to let it elongate a little bit. This angle he's marvering at right now serves a purpose. It pushes the glass off of the pipe. You can see that area lengthening and getting narrower. Now he chills the middle of it, and then he comes up to a higher angle to both center, straighten, and cool the lower half of his parazon. When he gets that to a satisfactory point, he'll blow into it, trap the air with his finger, and we'll watch the gather expand. You'll notice that the expansion is not all the way down at the tip where he did a lot of cooling. It was right in the middle. Be sure to like and share and comment. Comments are the big thing for you guys. David Hogan won our giveaway piece from last week, and our giveaway piece for this next week is this triangular shaped vase. Okay, so by entering comments, you get entered in the drawing. All right, once again with the handle end down, working on the glass that's closest to the pipe in contact with the marver. Then he gradually comes up and changes the angle and begins to work on that other half. He'll change his angle a little higher in a minute just to make sure that he gets all the way down where he wants with it. And then when he's got a nice shape on that, yeah, nice shape on that, and there we go. So it takes a very deft touch to do that. That was a deft touch, not a deft touch. Mine is the deft touch. Do we allow tours and visits? Sort of, yes. Well, we have people coming into the studio some, but where the gallery's open, and we want social distancing and masks, and also we limit the number of people coming in. But yeah, we allow folks in the studio. We are not holding classes right now, Lynn. We haven't started that, but it probably won't be long. It'll depend on the guidance of the state of Maryland, where we're located, and also the presence of vaccinations and whatnot in the staff. So very soon. And if you're interested, check our website, artoffire.com, and you can find out when we actually will be offering classes. Todd's using a Soffietta, or a puffer. It's a metal cone attached to a pipe, and it's got a mouthpiece on the other end, and by using that he could cool specific locations in the glass. Now he's letting this all cool off so he can gather. If he gathered with that too hot, his previous work might have been for nothing, because the extreme heat would have made the piece collapse. It's got a firm core right now from being cooled. He's going to gather the glass up on it. He'll probably, there it is, and you can see him stripping the glass back into the furnace. And when he comes out, he'll take a look, and yes, he's going to drizzle a little off now, which is usually really popular with the viewers. So when that glass drizzles off like that, it actually burns itself away from the piece. And he's got a little bit of some pieces left over, but he can just clip them off. They're little shards. They'll melt right back in. Okay, so
That's cool.
Huh?
Did you catch that on camera?
I got most of it, yeah.
That's pretty neat.
So what he's doing right now, getting those little burrs off of there.
It's all jumped out of that bucket of water when they popped. They actually left.
They just blew right back up at him,
Yep.
which is a rather unusual circumstance. But by minimizing the amount of glass that's on the outside there, he's simply able to go back in and melt it in, and you'll never know the difference. So that glass that went into that bucket was so hot that it allowed that to like splash back up. He had already had the glass trailed off and burned off. It just decided to come back at him. And if you think that's fun, go back and check out our video where we did the Prince Rupert's drop and had the glass explode in thousands of pieces after cooling. Those are always fun. Yep, that was a new one, Kristen. We don't normally have that. And so, yeah, you got to see some pop, pop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. Good morning, Rude. Welcome aboard. Todd's making a vase right now. He's got a feathered design in it, and we should do another Prince Rupert's drop. Yeah, Bridget, we probably will one time. They're fun. Okay, he's using the cherry wood block right now to let's talk injuries. We haven't had any injuries from anything like that. No, and we don't get any injuries from the Prince Rupert's drop because we're very careful about how we let that explode. So we don't do anything dangerous.
No,
we do some things.
Outside.
What's that?
We get more injured outside, like playing frisbee, than we do inside.
Yep. Yep. We've had several twisted ankles and broken bones and everything else from running around the parking lot.
I forgot. Johnny was playing frisbee, wasn't he?
Or even broken rear windows. Okay. Todd is on fire, yes. Yes, Kathleen McClintock. Josh did take that slow motion video of the Prince Rupert's drop, and we've got that back in the archive somewhere. Lee says you need to bob your head more when you're using the newspaper.
Trying to keep the smoke out of my eyes.
Isn't it great when your older brother's in the peanut gallery? All right, so he's getting the expansion now, and you can see that it's primarily occurring in the middle of the piece. That's because of the cooling he did at the Marver. Okay. So the shapes that we put the glass into are very important in making the vessel. If the shape is too long or too short, it affects the way the bubble blows out, whether it's under control, and whether the areas that we want to inflate do or don't. So he's got a lot of heat in all of that from being in the glory hole, and by hanging it down just a little bit, see, he never went steeper than about a 45-degree angle. If he'd have gone straight down with it, it would have run straight toward the floor. He's used the newspaper to chill the bottom, and here comes the jack line. So no, Ted, there's not going to be another dip or another gather on this. But in Ted's defense, he did ask the question just as Todd was picking up the jacks. So once we've cut the jack lines into piece, unless we're doing something really special, we don't go back for another gather. And by special, I mean unusual. All right, so he's got the entire piece in the glory hole, so it's all getting hot. He can get a little bit of elongation with this. Notice he's got that 45-degree angle again. He's letting it go, but as soon as he goes to horizontal, it stops lengthening. Then when he brings it down at an angle like that, there's a little lengthening, but more importantly, it's easier to center the glass as he cuts the jack line. When the glass is held at about a 45-degree angle, it's easier to keep in line with the pipe. The downside of that is it's very easy to elongate past the point you want. When the iron is held horizontal and you're cutting the jack line, you're constantly fighting the piece that wants to fall toward the floor. And it wants to fall 90 degrees to the floor. If you're holding a piece at 45 degrees, you've got a lot more control of it. Bridget says she would argue that everyone at Art of Fire is always special and a bit unusual. I'd say we have to agree with that.
The latter more than the former.
Yes.
Depending on how
No, we're special in a special way.
You gotta define special on that.
Okay. So now he's got his jack line cut, and at this point,
Not like restraining order special.
okay. So the interesting thing about the glory hole is it applies heat to 360 degrees of the glass.
Did he see one?
I'm sorry?
Did David see that he won?
Yeah,
Okay,
David's
cool.
been in. Yep. It's a motley crew for sure. Yay! Okay, so he's heating the whole piece, and he's heating it throughout, but he keeps moving the glass back and forth a little bit. You can see the brightness is contained in the lower 2/3. That's because that's where he put the heat. And you can see that the lengthening from this gentle swing is in the point where he had the heat. And of course we all know that's because...
Hot glass moves and cold glass no.
Thank you!
We're gonna do Bruce's and Bingo.
Good morning, Ramiro. Welcome aboard. I have to get that thrown in at least once a week.
I just wish I could remember what makes it round. What makes it? I can't remember.
Oh,
What makes it round?
Rolling makes it round. You'll notice that the heat is again concentrated in the lower portion of the vessel. Bridget says 10 points to Todd.
Yeah. Can I go home now?
Okay, so this has allowed him to create the cylindrical shape he was looking for. So in answer to some of the questions, which you may or may not have already asked, actually somebody did earlier, do you have a design in mind when you start? Well, yeah. Kristen's hoping there'll be a Bruceism shirt one day. I'll try to bring it in next week. Remember I wore that in Corning? Yeah. I'll try to remember my Bruce Says shirt. At any rate, we start out with a much larger diameter than our finished product, so that when we let it lengthen due to gravity or swinging it and using centrifugal force, we end up with the diameter and a length that we want. So now you can see the cylindrical shape is formed, and that was formed from that large, rather round blob of glass he had. Make it available for purchase. You need to see it before you want to do that, Bridget. I can guarantee you. Okay, so if you watched our YouTube video, Todd brought Josh a cheater. Now, Josh is going to be bringing one to Todd. It's a small bit of glass. It's placed in the middle and trailed off. It just burns itself off, and this will be a beautiful spot to get the putty on, okay? Sometimes we do this to protect the putty attachment, the point that we do that. If the color were on the outside, we'd do it so the putty didn't peel any of the color off. Even when it's cased in clear quite often, we want to make sure that that Rude says Sunday his glass went cold, and would you believe it moved to the floor? Good one, Rude. We've all done that, and that's a perfect example, at least here where we use the Fahrenheit scale. We try not to let the glass get below 1100 degrees when we're working it, because if it gets cold, it can crack or wind up on the floor. So Todd's heating it now. You can see the heat's concentrated in the bottom. He's going to use the newspaper to hold it in shape, and while Josh paddles the bottom. Todd's also blowing a little bit with the blow hose. Now all of that, with two of them working on it, the blow hose, the paper, and the paddle, that was all in an effort to keep it straight and not collapse. If we'd allowed Josh to just depress against the glass in his usual wild man nature, he would have not only flattened it, he would have pushed it in and put a ring on it. Did Amanda ask you to put a ring on it? At any rate, whoa! So, Josh with the paddle could have crushed the bottom. Todd with the newspaper. Looks like Todd is full of hot air with all the steam coming out. Well, that's the newspaper, actually, not him.
And that's not
okay. So he's got a beautiful cylindrical shape here. You can see that, folks. A little dimple in the bottom for where the putty will rest, and you can see the disc on the bottom, which is the cheater that we just put on there.
Cheater!
Once a cheater. All right, so now we're getting ready for the transfer.
A lot of hollering.
Oh! Ted Scott says with that hose, it looks like an awesome hookah. All right, Ted Scott, an awesome hookah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, okay, here's to you, Ted. So the newspaper is full of hot air then. No, actually the newspaper is full of water and combustible material, which we try to keep under control. Okay, so we place the putty in the center of the piece, and now what we want to do is make sure that it's running true, that it's in fact centered. So we're going to come over here and take a look. You can see both irons turning, and they look as if one is an extension of the other. They are in perfect alignment. A little bit of water right onto the neck, and then a little tap with the tweezers. It'll come off, and Josh heads to the glory hole with it. That's right, Kimberly. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Okay, so we've got the transfer done. Oh yeah, the centering we were talking about. Centering is just simply keeping the piece evenly distributed around its central axis, okay? And when we have two pipes, one on either end of the piece, we have to make sure that everything is in alignment.
Peace pipe.
What's that?
It's a peace pipe.
Peace. Okay. So Todd's got this well centered. You can see as he turns, It's just turning really smoothly.
Way too much money.
It doesn't bump up and down a lot or anything. So that means that when he put the putty on in the transfer, he had it nicely centered at the bottom of the piece. Every once in a while we miss a little bit, but we've got ways to straighten that out. But David Hogan says, in this case, cheaters do prosper. Actually, these cheaters have actually saved a lot more pieces than we'd like to admit.
George Carlin said it best. Dishonesty is the second best policy.
Aha. Okay. You can see where the heat's located now, in the upper reaches of the cylinder. Todd and Josh, well, Todd's going to take a measurement first, make sure what he's got here, and by tweezing and pulling the glass out, he can get a little more length onto it. And then we'll be able to trim that off one way or another. We have a couple of methods for trimming the glass off. One of them is to cut a jack line very close to that flower-like lip that he pulled. Ted says he took a class in Corning and they called cheaters rookie cookies. How about that? Well, let me tell you, a lot more people than just rookies use them.
It's called monetizing, securing your monetized piece of glass.
There you go. Hey, when your mac and cheese on the dinner table depends on it, you do what you got to do.
My mortgage company likes those cheaters.
When I first started coming around here, when Todd would put a piece away, he'd say, "There's another box of mac and cheese."
Yep. Still appropriate.
So a little more lengthening there.
Mac and cheese, that's
Ooh, Bridget asks if you're going to deflower this. And yes, he is going to take the flour off the top. Love it.
wow. This is really going.
Hey, come on.
And it's not even David Hogan today. That's the
Yeah, I know. And you know what? It just depends on what gutter your mind runs in if you make something bad out of that. So I'm going to assume that Bridget is talking about removing that little flower
That's
from the
right.
top of the vase. That's simply all it is. Now, if he were to want a more organic look, he might even just leave that on there. But by cutting this jack line right up close there, he'll be able to take that off, and he'll have a couple of ways he can do that. One is he can put water on it, or he can clamp it with the shears and ask Josh to take a pair of tweezers. Oh, Todd's got it himself. He's getting the water on. He's still going to have Josh do it. He'll hold that, and Josh will tap the glass, and it comes right off. There we go. Okay, so let's see.
So that kind of thing size.
Oh, okay. Theta answered the question because we were too busy with other stuff. Somebody asked whose vase you were making first, and Theta answered it's the green feathered vase. And there goes the flower.
This is
Yep.
Amy's green feathers over white.
Okay, there we go. All right, he's going to concentrate the heat in the upper reaches again. And then Josh will come over and help him flatten the lip while Todd makes sure that it's nice and round.
There's David Hogan.
Oh boy.
Hello, Michael Herman.
Hey,
Whoa!
Michael!
It says from Texas.
From Texas.
You're in Texas, Michael. All right. Okay, so Josh uses the paddle to flatten the lip while Todd opens it up, and then he'll take another check with his calipers right on the money. And then what he'll do is use the jacks, probably the wooden jacks or Parchofi, to bring this back up to a cylinder. You'll notice there's a taper toward the lip. He just needs to open that up. Okay, you're getting the heat in it. You can see where the heat's located, up in the upper reaches of the vessel. And then as he works on it with the parchoffi, Josh will come along and use the paddle, keeping the lip nice and flat. And where Todd sees the diameter decrease, that's where he's going to work with the wooden jacks to open it up some more. By using the newspaper right now, he cools the glass just below that point. So he looks at where the perfect cylindrical shape stops and it begins to taper. And he can't help but get that hot in the glory hole. But what he can do is cool it ahead of time so that it doesn't get quite as hot as the end he's working on. So by doing that, he's able to maintain the shape coming up to that point. When he uses the wooden jacks, he'll be able to open that up. Well, Rude says, hello, Michael Dootsie. Is this a Dutch nickname for Michael Herman? Okay, using the paper, gets a nice cylindrical shape on it. And a little bit of centrifugal force is actually applied there. And now by using the jacks, and you notice they're angled upward a little bit, he's using those wooden blades to push up on the glass. He'll get a nice cylindrical shape. And we'll tell you another little glass blower trick right here. When Todd comes back after this reheat, we're going to look at the reflection of the fluorescent lights in the ceiling. And when a piece is straight, the reflected fluorescent light tube looks like a full fluorescent light tube. If the piece isn't straight, then it looks like it's something that's been pulled apart. So I looked at it just a moment ago, and he's got a lot of heat in that. So he's going to do a little bit of shaping here. But you can see kind of a light band going up the full length of the piece with no interruption there. And that's indicative of the reflection from the fluorescent light. So he's got this cylinder perfectly shaped. Josh is getting the insulated gloves on. Yeah, Barbara Belzer, this is going to look a lot different when it comes out of the annealer. You can't really see the multiple colors in the feathering, but Josh has picked up a shard that came off.
And that's still hot, so it's still going to get white.
So that's what it will look like. Okay. You let it stabilize. A little water on the joint between the Putty and the cheater, and then it'll be a tap of the iron, and off into the annealer it goes. There you can see a little bit of it, but they've got to move quickly to get it over there.
No, I'm not. I'm doing this.
Yeah, that's going to look amazing.
No, are we good on that side?
Yeah, you're good. Let's go.
All right, so let's hear it for Todd, folks. Yeah, lots of hearts, lots of thumbs up.
I got a joke.
Okay.
What's the difference? This is for Rude and Michael. What's the difference between someone from Netherlands and a hunk of pipe? One is a hollow cylinder. The other is a silly Hollander.
Oh. Oh, wow. Okay. Now, I've got to ask David Hogan, when you said awesome, is that in relation to the piece or Todd's joke? Okay. All righty, folks. So, and there's the man behind a lot of it. Hello, Foster. How's it going today?
Morning.
Good, good.
Hi, everybody. Hope you're enjoying Todd's demonstrations, and thanks once again, for being with us.
Okay, great. So we did actually we did the feathered vase first, and we'll be doing the fishnet pattern on the next one. So here's some samples of the vases we made last week and had on display, okay? Got a wide variety of them. It being spring, perfect time to display your flowers. So, and the flowers actually do add a lot to the vases. This pink check in the pulpit with the flowers in it was won by David Hogan. That was a piece for last week. I'm sorry, it's right over here. Doesn't have flowers in it. Got a piece of blue tape on it to keep flowers out of your vase, David. Okay, and then we've got this triangular small gold vase here. This is the piece for next week's giveaway. So get your comments in there. That's what'll get you entered in the drawing. We have gift certificates available. If you just can't quite decide what to buy for someone else when you visit our website, buy a gift certificate. Then they can pick, there we go, right there, You don't even have to come in. We can email it to you, okay? As long as you can download the PDF. And who can't do that these days? Even I can do that part, okay? We're really tickled with this vase over here. If you joined us last week, you saw the hyacinth vase, and there it is. Theta posted pictures of it online, but that was a lot of fun to do. That was kind of a challenge, something we'd never done before, and just decided to give it a shot. Okay, hello Jim, and welcome aboard. Okay, buy some t-shirts if you like, okay? And I'll try to remember to bring the Bruce Says t-shirt next week. It's not really for sale, at least not yet. I've got the one and only. At any rate, that's, I love watching the hyacinth vase last week. Well, thank you, Bridget. We appreciate that. Okay. All right, Todd's getting set up for his next piece. And since we may have a few folks that haven't been with us before, let's talk about this annealing thing once again, okay? Because we keep talking about putting it in the annealer. It's over at the annealer. Let's take a look in the annealer. Well, this is all our annealers are. It's a big old box of bricks. Now, they don't have to be made like this. They can be made much fancier, but they're really good, okay? And these bricks hold heat. We have a source of heat over here. We have the propane gas, and we have an air supply. And no, we don't do all out of love or anything like that for air supply. Anyway, we put our pieces in the annealer as we make them. We maintain the temperature in here at about 900 degrees. So when Todd put that, which Bruceism is on t-shirts, about 8 of them, Ted. So anyway, we put the piece in here. The piece might be at 13 or 1400 degrees Fahrenheit. But we can put them in there and they can lose temperature from 1400 to 900 without any problem. They're white bricks because of what they're made of, yes. Red bricks, clay bricks probably wouldn't hold. These bricks are rated by temperature. We have different kinds of bricks. Some of them will withstand 2300 degrees of heat. Some of them will withstand 2800 degrees of heat. Some of them might only withstand 1800 degrees of heat. So the type of brick depends on the application. Anyway, we build up this box of bricks. We put our pieces in here and let them coast down from whatever temperature they get put away at to 900 degrees. And they can stay there all day without any problem. The magic, if you will, happens when they start to cool. When we shut the air and the fuel supply off at the end of the day, the bricks retain heat, just as a patio might, or a roadway, and releases heat over the next few hours slowly. And it's this slow release of heat that allows the glass to anneal. So, no, Annette, I didn't try it yet. I didn't have my usual day of working alone this week, so I haven't tried the hyacinth, but I'm gonna. Okay, so anyway, we put the glass in there. It comes down to 900. We shut the fuel supply off, and it starts crashing, but very, very slowly, okay? And there are actually a few different temperatures on the way down. The annealing point is one of them, but we tend to think in ranges since it's easier to conceive of. So the range from about 850 degrees Fahrenheit down to 700 is very critical. If we move too fast through that, the stress in the glass is not released evenly and it breaks eventually. Then from 700 on down to room temperature, it's a little easier to deal with. Okay, so that's what the annealers do. And an interesting sidelight. Foster built these annealers and started building them probably 40 years ago. And so he had to figure out how many bricks go in it. Well, if he didn't put enough bricks in it, it would release heat too fast. And if he came out the next morning and all his pieces were broken, it was, oops, I'm going to need some bigger bricks. Sorry about that. That's a bad allusion to Jaws. But at any rate, if there's not enough bricks, it won't hold the heat. And if there's too many bricks, it's going to take way longer than you need. And if any of you are potters, not hairy kind, the ones that actually make bowls and vases, you know about using cones and checking out the heat rate or the heat loss in your kilns. So it's the same type of thing. So that's way more than you ever wanted to know about annealers, but there it is. And it also gave Todd the chance to take a little sip from his wink wink coffee cup, all right, and get back to it. Okay. So this will be the Fishnet Cylinder. The two folks that are getting these award pieces get to choose the colors and the shapes. So this piece, both these pieces happen to have been cylindrical vases because of the choice of the people getting them. So Todd's starting out very much the same here. Once again, he's cooling the tip of the piece there. That's going to also make it a little conical shape. It's got a little bulge in the middle. Then when he blows and holds the pipe at an upward angle, there goes the expansion, but not all the way to the end. Rude, we'd be glad to correspond with you and give you some tips on perhaps building a small furnace. Actually, we've been trying to kick around the idea of how to make some pieces without using a furnace, since we've got a pretty consistent viewer here, Rude, who watches us from Netherlands, and he doesn't have a furnace, yet he makes beautiful glass. So perhaps one of these days we'll try to incorporate that system into making a demonstration piece for folks. Okay, you heard him tap it. He was just trying. So we have a visual check and a sound check. Okay. Fern says it was interesting learning about the annealer. Well, thank you, Fern. Glad to hear it. Part of our purpose here is to help you guys learn about the glass blowing process, in addition to entertaining you and letting you see some beautiful pieces made. Todd stripped the glass off, and now he's going to head over to apply some frit. Cullets. Rude uses cullets. Okay, very good. So this will this be 3 gathers then, Todd, before the pickup?
The third gather will get the gray.
Uh-huh.
I'll melt that in, case over it, and then we'll pick up the blue metallic.
Oh, okay. So there'll be a clear layer between the two colors. Wonderful. Cullets, Bridget, the C-U-L-L-I-T-S is just a different spelling. If you've seen it here stateside, it's usually C-U-L-L-E-T.
How to spell it?
What's that?
How did Ruth spell it?
With an I, which
Can you
is
use
fine.
that in a sentence?
Yeah.
What's
So
the origin of that word?
anyway, cullet. Well, I'll show you some
We actually
cullet.
looked it up one day.
You've seen Todd blow a bubble in the glass before. What the heck? We can ignore that for a minute. And this, dear viewers, is cullet. So it's basically just broken up glass. And we save the clear glass. You've seen us strip off the glass into the bucket, and this is where that action takes place. Well, we'll empty those buckets at some point, and there's another bucket back here, but that one has some color in it.
That's the one. That's the one that did it.
That's the one that put all the glass up there for Todd. At any rate, we empty these buckets every once in a while and take the wet glass out, pick through it, and that's our cullet. And when we melt our glass formulation, we do, what is it, about 10%, Josh?
Yeah.
10% cullet. And the cullet helps in the melt. We could just melt the raw material straight up, but the cullet helps us in the melt. It provides like gaps or windows, if you will, within the powdery mess that goes in there.
It helps the environment. Can't forget that.
And we recycle. Okay, so here he goes. He's going to see if he can get something to spit back at him again. Just kidding. There, it burned right off. Beautiful, no fireworks this time. Okay, and now he'll bring that over and in just a moment start gathering the gray. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that the gray? Yeah, okay. Yes, Kristen, so all our clear glass does get recycled, and the color shards we have, Foster has a way of getting that recycled too, although we don't reuse it here. We can't put the color glass back into our melt because it would, well, it would contaminate it. There might be a couple of colors that could go in there in small quantities that wouldn't hurt. Purple comes to mind because the magenta doesn't really affect the melt, does it, Josh? We try to keep it pretty clear. It doesn't do a lot, but if we were to put a whole bunch of different colors in there, it'd make kind of a mess of it. So we remelt the clear and salvage all that we can and allow someone else to recycle the color glass. And well, a couple of you seem to like the explanation of the annealers. I'm not going to go back to that again, but if there's any other questions you have about the equipment or what it is we're doing or why we're doing it, we'll let you know. And Ramiro says, what festival is Art of Fire doing this weekend? And thank you for the segue, Ramiro. The Countryside Artisans Tour is this weekend, and that's in Montgomery County, Maryland here. And a group of, what, about 12 different artists are involved, different folks in the general area, and they open up their studio areas for tour and their galleries. Again, social distancing, masks, all that sort of thing are the order of the day, but it does allow people to get out and see a little bit of the beautiful Montgomery County countryside and visit a few artists in their working place. So we'll be out here this weekend doing that, and there won't be any video of that. We'll all have our hands full. All right, so Todd's getting the gray on this. Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, I hope that by everybody sharing, we get more fans, more viewership, and heck, more glass. All right, so at this point, Todd is getting on Facebook or YouTube. We won't be on either this weekend for the fair I was talking about, but we will continue to do our Facebook and YouTube broadcasts on Tuesdays. Yes, Jim, it is a lot of fun. In years past, when there were bigger crowds and stuff, we'd have quite a few people. We anticipate a few folks coming by this weekend to watch the glass blowing process. So, you notice Todd rolling the glass on the marver, and notice that he's getting a darker band toward the middle and the top. That's where the heat's dissipated. Now, as he goes down toward the end, you can see that that shape has changed, a little more conical. That also cools the end so that when he blows, it won't expand so much down there.
It's not funny. It's not funny.
Oh, okay.
I thought you said it was comical.
Ah.
I take this very seriously.
Okay.
I don't take anything seriously.
Yeah, okay. I'm with you. No events allowed in the UK yet, Tricia says. That's, yeah, we've been reading about how the virus has been progressing over there, and we're doing pretty well right here now. Okay, so Todd's got that all shaped up. Just going to let that cool a good bit, and right now he's using our pipe cooler. We haven't talked about that much, so The pipe does sometimes get a little bit warm. It's really not too hot to hold, but the purpose of this pipe cooler really helps is being able to grab the iron closer to the glass. It gives you much better leverage. If we have to hold the pipe back by the handle, it's very hard to turn, it's very hard to keep control of. If we're able to grab at the midpoint or even closer to the glass, we're able to control it much, much better. If we accidentally get a little bit of moisture in a pipe, that's a whole different story, because then it can heat up the pipe rather quickly as the moisture evaporates. No, Jim, there won't be, I don't think they will be making it up to northern New York this summer. I think I heard Theta and Foster talking about that, but Theta's online here and she'll tell you for certain. Todd's stripping the glass off there. Again, he'd let that gather cool so that it didn't collapse from the next gather. Here he goes with letting it just drain right off. This makes sure there's an even coating all the way around. He doesn't need to turn the pipe yet because gravity is applied all the way around the piece. Then when he brings it up to level and starts to turn, that keeps it centered. If he chooses, he can peel off that little bit right there with his shears, and now it's got a really nice gather there. He's going to shape it up he's going to trim it, okay. He's using his diamond shears to cut and pull it off. And now off for the next application of frit. And what is this, Todd?
This is
a green?
It's a silver, kind of a silver blue.
Oh, okay.
Gunmetal blue that complements the gray really nicely.
All right, get a nice even coating all over that and then reheat. It'll take care of that little bit on the end the next time. Oh, okay, Theta's got the definitive word. They'll be up to upstate New York in 2022. So there you go. All of you that are watching from down here, have you heard anything about the Maryland Ren Fest? Not yet. Haven't heard anything definitive yet. All right, once again, the glass closest to the iron. Now by changing the angle, coming to more horizontal, he gets the mid portion, and then the higher he lifts the back end, the more the nose of the piece gets covered. Mary Grace, the festival, the Renaissance Fair, is held in Crownsville, Maryland, which is kind of near Annapolis and Baltimore. Our studio is in Damascus, Maryland, which is probably about 35 miles northeast of Washington, D.C., and about 35 miles west of Baltimore. Okay, so he's got his frit application on there. Now it's time for the remainder of his decorative elements.
Here it was again.
What's that?
It just popped again.
Oh yeah, it popped again, yeah.
I'm trying to get in my glass.
There's something about that bucket that just doesn't like you.
Doesn't like it.
You have our permission to kick the bucket. Ugh.
Thank you, Jesus. That's good, Elizabeth.
So get ready for the twist and shout. Why is the frit you use sometimes in a bowl and sometimes it's on the table? Good question. Sometimes we just like doing things that make people ask questions. No, seriously, it has to do with coverage and what we need to get onto it, okay? So when we know that we're going to be marvering for quite a bit and altering the shape, we might want a broad swath of it on top of the marver so that we can cover the whole thing as we go along. We might use the bowl when we're don't mind. Which waypoint in the Dulles Landing are you at? I'll have to check on that, Ted. Okay, yeah, the jokes and puns are overflowing. Okay, why do we use bowls instead of ice cream scoops? Very good reason. If we had ice cream scoops, we'd be eating ice cream. We're not fools.
Ice cream?
Yeah, ice cream.
I had no
You
idea.
scream. We all scream for ice
cuss.
cream.
You cuss. We all cuss for asparagus.
So a lot of glass studios actually use a feed scoop that you would find at Southern States or a farm supply store. And they're wide open also, and you can put them in there. We use the bowls because we've got ice scoops. Okay, I got you. Ice scoops, same type of thing. But we got bowls of various sizes, and we're pretty good with the bowls, just taking the iron, tapping it in there, and getting the full coverage we need. But a lot more of it has to do with the density of the coverage and the totality of it. If you're in a bowl, you probably have to go a few more times.
You are my density.
Okay.
Nobody, huh?
Here he goes into the optic mold, blows real hard into this. So he's not going to twist in here. He's going to get the ridges established, and from that will come his fishnet pattern.
Nobody?
Really?
Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Fly?
Nobody said anything. Ah, Barbara Gould Belzer did. She said Back to the Future.
Thank you.
Came up. There we go. Okay.
Daddy-o?
No, it's more fun to make an obtuse comment and then just wait about 15 minutes and somebody gets it.
That's right.
Okay, so now a little bit of twist,
No shit.
just like last summer.
I'm not gonna shout.
Now, he's going clockwise, and he'll only twist it when he's turning clockwise. As opposed to what, folks? What's the other direction?
Wintershins!
Wintershins, yes! Isn't that great? I mean, I've introduced so many people to a new word.
The snowman
Or maybe a
had
lot of
so
them
much
used
fiber
it.
in his diet, he left the Wintershins.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Okay, so
Summer shins. That's right.
no, we don't blame it on the internet. We blame it on the boogie. Who sang that?
Blame it on yourself.
Huh? Come on, Josh.
I missed that one. What was it?
Bridget, I think it's no. Joanna said blame it on the internet, and I said no, blame it on the boogie.
I don't know.
Oh, come on.
I know the song.
Okay, somebody's going to come up with it.
On the boogie.
Yes, counter Wittershins. That's great, Bridget, for the clockwise. So now you can see he's got this beautiful twist in the glass,
This is
and that will be blame it on Rio. That's another good one. Okay. I used to listen to a lot of music that's even older than me, and there was a really good one called Blame It on the Bossa Nova. Any of you out there know who sang that?
Don't even look at
I know neither one of these guys are familiar with it. Okay, so we're back to it. Yes, Susan Haas answers for Josh, the Jackson 5.
That's the Jackson 5.
Yeah. Blame it on the boogie.
Wow, I didn't know that. Hi, Susan.
But how about blame it on the Bossa Nova? Blame it on the alcohol? Yeah. Today that's not the case, and it's not even caffeine this morning.
Who's the Jackson 5?
Who's the Jackson 5? Yeah. Okay, so now Another drop into the optic mold. And now you can see the crisscross pattern. Jim Yearden says this is such a fun way to wake up. I forgot, he does the overnight shift.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is really pretty cool because you kind of get to know these folks.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, how would I have known that somebody worked the overnight shift? Okay, so Todd's going to shape the back end of that where it kind of bulged out. And now we've got the widdershins, folks. He's going anti-clockwise in the world of Foster. Widdershins for some of you, counterclockwise for the others. Okay. And this layering of the ridges, okay, the manner in which, yeah, Edie Gourmet, and I think she might have had her husband in on that song. Who was whom, Vanessa?
Lawrence. That's Steve Lawrence, I know that.
Huh?
Steve and Edie, I know that.
Steve and Edie, he knew that. Yeah, okay. Wow. And look, this one's just shaking his head like, what the heck is wrong with these guys? Hey, we could just show you a glass blowing video. You could open it up any old time, but it wouldn't have any of this, would it? Maybe those of you that are glass blowers would prefer that it did. Steve Lawrence, that's right. Okay. All right, so the extra set of ridges runs counter to the originals, and that's what's going to give him the fishnet pattern in the glass. David Hogan decides he doesn't want widdershins counterclockwise, anti-clockwise, just the other direction. That works for us too. You can notice him pressing down rather aggressively when he had the pipe like that. It's because there's a lot of glass that was still up on the pipe. He pushed it off. Now, when he's turning both directions, he's going for symmetry. When he turns in one direction only, he's going for the twist. Next week, he's going to do the limbo.
Try the optics one more time.
That's right, Barbara, but I wasn't going to introduce Deosil to everybody as being the opposite of widdershins. Because Deosil, sunwise.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and that's what widdershins refers to also, as the direction counter to the direction of the sun. So long before we had clocks, people were turning left and turning right and had to go with something. So if you went in the direction of the sun, the way the sun transits, you're going one way. And if you're going contrary to the direction of the sun, then you're going the other way.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so there you go.
There we go.
A little ancient history, a little language, and a whole lot of glass blowing. Oh, can I channel Don Cornelius and lay out the peace, love, and glass blowing? Come on. You know Soul Train. You got to know
I've
Soul
heard
Train.
of Soul
You've
Train.
heard of Soul Train. How long can we go? Rude, we could do this all day, really. How low can you go? Okay. I thought he said how long can you go? With this nonsense, we can go low and lower. In fact, it's been a real effort today with some of the softballs you all have set up not to get in a lot of trouble with my language today. Particularly you, David Hogan, trimming the glass. Okay, here we go with a little more twisting.
That's good.
Deosil, Bridget, that's the one, I think it might have been Barbara did it a minute ago. The comments disappear on this screen right away. So that's Deosil, and that's with the direction of the sun. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like trying to explain to your grandkids about phones with a dial on them. They just don't in fact, they probably don't get the whole thing about a landline.
Yeah, I don't
No.
think my kids know what a landline
Josh's
is.
kids don't know what a landline is.
My daughter's taking a biology quiz today, and I thought it was still kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. It actually starts now with domain,
Whoa.
kingdom, phylum.
Okay.
So, knowledge grows. All right, now we're in good shape.
Party line. That's right, David.
Saw that on Mayberry RFD.
Yeah, I've experienced that. Wishing your neighbors would get off the phone so you could make a call.
You remember? That cool.
Okay. Let's get over here while this is cooled off a little bit and get a look at this beautiful fishnet pattern in the glass. That's gorgeous. Bridget, I have a landline too. In fact, I called an office the other day, and the lady asked me for my email address so she could send me the documents. And I gave her my email address, and as soon as I said at AOL.com, she said, "Oh my God, somebody still uses that?"
So you're the last one.
Well, then I told my son about it, and he thought it was really funny because he says, "Dad, you and Mom are the only ones I send email to using AOL."
Maybe you can get somebody to pay.
I'm a holdup. But the good news is, I dropped the dial-up a long time ago. I did. In fact, Josh was telling me one day that AOL enjoys older customers, and Antoinette has AOL also. Okay. Hey, that's better than LOL.com. Okay, so anyway, he said that they wanted to keep their their dial-up service because too many of the seniors couldn't figure it out to go to anything else, and it was a revenue source. Kimberly says with a landline you have the satisfaction of slamming the phone down.
That's true.
I'm sure there's an app though that will allow you to hang up with a really loud noise.
Satisfaction of slamming.
Okay, so we've got the decorative element already done.
Amen to that.
Now he's going to start to cut the jack line into it.
That's such a day, sir.
Now, you see this angle he's holding the glass at? That actually helps with keeping the glass centered down at this end. Because as the glass points downward, he's trying to keep it in line with the pipe. And it's much easier to do if you've got it at a bit of a downward angle. It allows you to get that line cut in there really quick. Then you can bring it back to horizontal and finish things up. Because he cooled the very end of the vessel, you can see the expansion is taking place in the middle and toward the top. So all this blowing is expanding the jack line he cut, which means he's going to have to revisit it after another heat.
Well, Bruce, I did feel old yesterday.
What's that?
I said I did feel old yesterday.
Yeah, what happened?
How
How old did you feel?
So I was helping my daughter with her, her computer stuff. And she says, Daddy, I have a touchscreen computer for school. Did you have a touchscreen computer when you were in kindergarten? I said, Honey, they didn't have computers when I was in kindergarten.
I had a book bag.
Yeah, I had a book bag.
We had wax tablets and a scratch on
That's right.
I'll tell you what's really fun about touchscreen computers, or even just like tablets, is watch somebody go from using an iPad where they touch and drag and all that other stuff, and then they sit down at a laptop or a computer and try to touch the screen and drag everything around.
That's right.
That's always fun. So now he's getting that diameter out there, and if we have a chance, we'll take a real quick look at these colors. There we go. Beautiful pattern in that. And as we mentioned on the last piece, we overblow the diameter beyond what we want on the finished Joyce said, "Stop talking about me," when I told the story about the tablet and the computer. If you hadn't jumped on there, honey, nobody would have known. I didn't mention anything. It's all good. Oh wow. Ted says he saw a toddler with a magazine complain it was broken because he couldn't pinch the photos. Whoa. All right, so now Todd's got the heat in the piece. He's going to elongate it. Usually, see how gently he's swinging that. He's not going really crazy with it. Not yet anyway. He can wait on it to cool a little bit and then swing it a little more. There we go. Just checking out the symmetry.
That's where they bury old tires. Radial symmetry.
Oh, Barbara Belzer said she signed you up for dance lessons, Todd. I don't know if that means as an instructor or for your benefit.
I definitely don't know what I'm doing, so.
Yeah, David Hogan says he did the same thing, reading on a tablet and then grabbing a book and couldn't get the page to turn by tapping it. I love it. Oh, we've all done that sort of thing, one time or another. Okay. Now when he puts the calipers on there to check the length, he goes with a little bit more than he needs because he knows that that bullet-shaped bottom is going to get flattened for the bottom of the vessel and he'll lose a little bit there. So that's why if you noticed with the calipers, they were a little bit longer from the jack line to the tip than he really need. He was a little long on that. Okay. Flip, touch, and trail off, and it just burns right off. Now he'll flatten that. Presses it with an angle to seal it against the bottom and then flattens it a little bit. Then his next move after a reheat will be to come back and flatten the bottom. Or if they decide to do it as they did before, yep, looks like they're setting up for that. I got a feeling Todd is going to supply a little bit of air. Nobody commented about the air supply joke earlier. I really was surprised at that. At any rate, he's going to give the whole piece a flash, heat the bottom. The Todd is not going to blow really hard into this. When Josh presses the paddle against the bottom, if we had nothing stopping the other end of the pipe, the air would push out the pipe, the piece would collapse a great deal. So what Todd can do is with a very gentle pressure, keep the air from backing up, and that provides resistance against the paddle action that Josh is bringing to it. Also, with the paddle Josh is pressing, the sides would bulge. So the newspaper holds the side in place, a little bit of air or back pressure, and Josh can press the entire thing flat, and we keep a nice crisp line there between the side and the bottom, a nice 90-degree line, and we get it perfectly flat. We don't have to worry about it collapsing or pushing back because the air is leaving the vessel. Alrighty. So Todd will take a flash, Josh will come over here and form the putty. So the key thing about a putty is not to have a lot of glass hanging off the end of it. If there's too much glass off the end, it's like having a hot finger out there, and if it's very long at all, the piece will wobble all over while you're trying to work it. Josh seals it down nice and tight, and then he gives the end a little bit of shaping, a little bit of rounding, and there's not a whole lot sticking off the end of the pipe. Just enough to grab and hold on. Todd will center it again, and we're going to back up a little bit, and you can see both pipes are moving with the piece in between them. And the idea here is to keep everything in one straight line. If it weren't centered, we would see the Putty iron that Josh has bobbing up and down. When it moves without any upward or downward motion, we've got it centered. Off it comes, and right back up to the heat. Now the piece was not out very long, and also the putty is hot, so there's no need to put the whole thing in there right now. In fact, if Todd were to slow or stop his rotation, you would see the piece fall toward the lower edge of the glory hole, and we don't want that. So once the putty starts to settle down a little bit, or if he feels he needs a flash to heat the whole piece, then he'll do that. Right now, the heat's being concentrated in the lip of the vessel, the opening up there that broke off. Hey, it was cold enough to fracture. It's going to take a little while to reheat it. So every once in a while, you'll see him put the whole thing in there, and that's to get it all warm. Okay, no one has asked, so just how heavy is this piece, Todd? 4 pounds?
It's probably somewhere between 4 and 6.
Okay.
And you got to factor in the lever arm that's hanging off of.
Ah. Okay. That's right, Jim. No floor model on a transfer. Fern, we grind the putty mark off if necessary. Quite often, we get the putty on there with an attachment that doesn't exactly weld it into place, and quite often they come off very smooth. I don't know if he'll trim that or not, Antoinette. It all depends on what the break-off looked like and if he requires any more size to the vessel, okay? Okay, so he's going to stretch it some. Remember to comment. That's what's going to get you entered in the drawing for next week's giveaway, okay? And we'd love it if you'd share, because the more you share with the folks you know, the wider viewership we get. And of course, we really enjoy it when you like what we're doing. So comment, share, and like, and it's a better world at the Art of Fire. So it's very, very hot. Yeah, he's shaking his head just because of the way the glass responded right there. So what he's trying to do is lengthen this out a little bit, okay? So do the pieces come signed by the artists? Yes, they do. Now in this case, this is a special order, and I believe Todd does sign all of those for the customer. Well, hello, Diana. Glad to have you with us. So he's stretching that out now. You're getting a little more length on this. Oh, so anyway, back to the question someone asked about the grinding or whatever on the putties. If the putty comes off and there's a scar left or a sharp spot at all, we simply grind that down very, very easily. And quite often, if we've gotten just the right kind of putty attachment on there, meaning that the temperatures are just right, then we can manage to not even have to grind it. So you'll notice that all the glass is moving. questions about the process, just ask us right now. Todd's working on the lip, and because all of that is so very hot, he has to change the shape of it. And now he's taking it over to the marver, and you'll notice that the glass kind of wants to collapse in on itself. So he's narrowing the diameter is the objective, okay? Yes, David, if the glass is moving, it must be hot. There is no other explanation other than we're not too worried about the shape right now there on the end. The fact that you see a little bit of wobble in it right now is really immaterial. Part of the craft of glass blowing is knowing when you can just let something go and when you need to really worry about it. So those little folds that you saw on the end are really they're irrelevant. What's important is this area where he's cutting the jack line. Okay? So if he gets a lot of heat on it, it gets all wobbly and it's hard to work with, and that's why you saw that lip folding, okay? As he was turning even and using the tweezers and the jacks, it was in motion because it was so very hot. Now that he's got a jack line started and it's under control, he can continue to squeeze that down. Yes, Renee, we're still here. Yep, Keith, that's right. Keith quoted me. Okay, so now, as long as he's got the heat in the area he needs, which is where the jack line is, he can now compress this.
Yeah.
Keith Daly is with us. Okay, so.
Okay.
David Hogan says, gotta know when to hold. And the rest of the line, know when to fold them.
So we'll do
R.I.P.
I'll do one more cut on the deck, and then we'll do a tap off, Josh.
Okay, so he's communicating with Josh what's going on. So yeah, as I've said many times before, it's not what you can make, it's what you can fix. So the upper reaches of that cylinder were a little wider than he wanted, and the piece was a little short, so he had to have some way to extend it. So what he's doing now is cutting this jack line, and he's able to even pull it out a little bit toward you with where I'm holding the camera. If he pulls our direction, it lengthens the piece. And then what they can do, again, that flower, he's going to deflower this vase. It's absolutely irrelevant. He's going to hold it, Josh is going to tap it, and we'll break it off. And then any other shards that remain, off they come. And now he's back down to the diameter he wants to continue the work. Okay? So,
We cut off the tip.
yes. Yes.
That's it. That's the only response.
That's all.
Yes, Rude, extending the glass does make it thinner. I don't want to get in trouble with the kindergarten teacher, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut on that one. Okay. All right. So now, except for just a few moments of working the piece out some, we're back to where we would have been a little bit ago. Yes, Kristen, it's going to be beautiful, and it'll be coming out tomorrow. He's going to snip that little shard off and just cast it away. Ah, David Hogan says he's taking the high road as well. David Hogan and I against Todd. Wow, who would have figured? Okay, so now we're right where we want to be as far as establishing the opening of the top of the vessel, getting the diameter consistent with the rest of the piece, flattening the lip. So Josh will be helping him out with that, putting the paddle on the piece. Barbara Belzer says, "Oh hell, I'll stay on the low road." Yeah, I really like it down there, but you know.
I encourage people to take the high road because that means there's more room for me on the low road to steal a line from Aziz Ansari. All right, so we'll attribute this favorite
Okay. You may get to Bedlam before me, but I'm going to take the highway to hell. Todd's going to have some air guitar for us here in just a minute on that note. Again, with the wooden jacks, Parchofi, they scar the glass less. They also take less heat. And because they're a slightly larger and rounded diameter, they don't disrupt that cylinder. He's going to do that once more. I think. Yeah. Couldn't tell if his signal to Josh was to go grab the gloves or let's do it again. So here we go. So what looked to some of you like what might have been an unrecoverable error just about 5 minutes ago, not an issue. You just have to take your time, get things under control, and work the glass. So now the paper holds the position, changes the profile if necessary. He's got a nice diameter on that, and now he's asked Josh to go grab the gloves, and we'll take it off. So once again, a little drop of water between the Putty and the little cheater bit, the tap on the iron, and it comes right off. All right, another song. Let's hear it for the boys. Todd, marvelous job. Well done.
Thank you, everybody.
And Mr. Ries, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay. Alrighty, well thank you all for joining us again, and I'm not sure what our theme will be next week, and none of us know either until the last minute, but you can contact us. You can join us at artoffire.com, call us at 301-253-6642, and here's a sample. We'll close on this today. Many of the vases we've made, some you saw just made last week. Great to have you all with us, and we'd enjoy seeing you again next week. So from the Art of Fire, so long and have a good week.